like I mentioned before, I knew we would probably run a little long. Obviously, we're just now getting to the questions, and it's right at 10 o'clock. So I've asked all the panelists, they're going to stay with us, and we're going to get into the panelist discussion. Obviously, if you've got things you've got to do, we understand, but we would like for you to all to stay and be part of the conversation. And with that, I'll get into the first question. There should be microphones in front of just about every one of you. There may be one short I can share if we need to. Kind of a softball here at the beginning. It's about how each of your organizations do what we're doing today. How do you collaborate internally? And then where could we work at improving collaboration across the county? We'll start at this end of the table with Dr. Ford and work our way down, and then we'll flip-flop to the next question.
Well, I think transparency from the school district's perspective is so important. We can't act as a silo. Everybody up here and every organization that's represented today is a very integral part of educating our students. So having things like this and countywide chamber fall leadership conferences and meetings for us to collaborate and make sure that we bring issues to the table and gain solutions for the issues that are going on in Effingham County is a must. There's no way that each one of us can be successful if we operate in silos.
No, I don't have anything to add. I mean, Dr. Ford said it very well. And my time since I've been here, coming up on 4 years, I think it's very imperative that I reach out and get to know everybody and get to know the municipalities in the county and have a good working relationship with Dr. Ford and with Tim and Wesley. And so, it's communication, no different from any other relationship you have. You got to have that communication, and I think that's the key. And I have I've been nothing but very impressed that everybody's willing to take my call and listen to what I have to say and answer the questions. And that helps me do my job, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, nothing additional for me. It's open communication across the board is key for everybody, and especially with the leaders that we have in the room, and it's just making sure that everybody's understanding of what's going on and what we need to do to help each other in the county.
I think a big part of us working together for planning and development is a cohesive zoning ordinance. That was my background with Guyton before I got mayor. And with the master plan that Effingham County is working on, I think we've discussed a little back and forth of trying to bring all of our zoning ordinances and codes together so that we've got one thing for builders, one thing for developers, and a cohesive plan moving forward. So very excited to be a part of that process.
Very little, but one thing we've implemented at the city is we developed a right start process so that when developers come in, when builders come in, they can meet with us prior to going to a planning board, prior to going to city council, so that we can flesh out any issues that they have up front before they invest $10,000, $15,000 in engineering fees. So it's been a great method for us to get ahead of zoning and get ahead of what the city is going to ask for in development, and I think it's a good path to go down.
Yes, I think that the one word I would use as far as relationships within the county is collaboration. And 20 years ago, our municipalities were all kind of isolated from each other, but the growth that we've had, we've all come together. We're one now in a lot of ways. And so the things that are impacting us as far as the transportation issues and the infrastructure issues throughout the county, we've got to work more than ever together to come to reasonable conclusions about how to address those things, because we're all being impacted now. It's not just a certain area. So we're growing, but we need to grow in a good way.
It's always been my position that you do better business with friends. And I think one thing we can say in this county, between the cities and the county elected officials, you're friends. We communicate by phone. We recently, about a year and a half ago, got together for numerous discussions on service delivery strategy. How are we going to deliver services to our community with cooperation, without competition? And that went real well as we looked at water and sewer areas and transportation issues. Out of that rose the conversation about the possibility of a T-SPLOS, because we knew the transportation issues that we had. And we collaboratively work together to get T-SPLOS before the people and explain how that can be worked. And so I think the biggest thing is that we're trying to be friends. And you remember the days when we'd be on the news, the county or the city, and there'd be conflict? When's the last time you've seen a conflict on the news? There's a lot of cooperation and collaboration. I think that's the key. When Rankin needs to expand, we don't fight them. They recently, about a couple of years ago, annexed the Grandview area, which brought water and sewer, which is going to bring development that we need, that we couldn't put there. For years, the county fought that annexation. With our current board, much more wisdom, they said, let's cooperate and work together. The hospital recently went through some hard financial times with COVID. Excellent hospital, provides an excellent service. I hope you've seen the changes since Dr. Witt has come to the board. And what has happened was always good, but it really excelled. And we were able to work with them to help them find some financing. And because of our funding availability, the prudence of which our board manages its resources, we were able to give them $600,000 toward additional staffing during COVID. We were able to advance them their resources they need to go ahead and start making the turnaround. And these are just all examples of staying in communication, by phone call, being friends, going to meetings. And beside that, we try to meet 2 or 3 times a year as boards and councils just to talk about what's happening in our communities. All these are, part of doing business with friends.
Very good, thank you. Thank you very much. With that collaboration in mind, Effingham, I'm a landscape architect and we do planning work. Effingham is what we call an edge community. Right, it's kind of in between the urban growth area and an historically agriculturally based community. A couple of questions really on this is, what do you see as the biggest opportunity because of that, being the edge community and edge growth community, and also the biggest challenge? Mr. Corbett, we'll start with you on this one, if you don't mind.
I think in a county our size with such diverse land use, it is a huge challenge. Because once again, on the northern end of the county, I want to see us, and everyone wants to see us protect our agricultural properties. But as people move into our community, suddenly people want to sell land. You can't blame them for that, because they get a higher dollar for their retirement and their families. And these subdivisions will be built, and then there goes our agriculture and our green space. And so these are the challenges we have. So part of our answer right now is looking at a growth plan, land use plan, identifying that multifamily housing that we need. Some would argue that we don't need it, but as I think Billy said well earlier, residential housing does not pay for the cost, and is not the reason we're able to keep our property taxes, our millage rates at the same. Actually, we've lowered them in the last 9 years, the millage rate. Residential doesn't do that. It's the commercial and industrial. And multifamily helps with that in the sense that you get more value per acre. But where does that need to be located? That's the challenge we are going through. We look at our ordinance and our land use to determine those areas, modeling our water and sewer in the county, because we're still about 75% of the population, even though our cities are growing fast. Our unincorporated area is growing probably even faster from that standpoint. And so we've got to put the water and sewer in the right places. And then how do you protect that quality of life in our schools and our fire and so forth. So there's a lot to deal with there. And I think the key to that is our master planning and kind of designing what we can legally do for the type of community we want. And once again, staying in collaborative efforts with our cities and our school board to make sure we don't stress them.
Yes, we're referred to now as an edge community, I guess. Prior to this, I've always heard us referred to as a bedroom community of Savannah. And for many years, we've been a commuting workforce. One of the driving factors in our growth up to this time is always and still is our school system. So they're providing a great service and creating opportunities for folks to come to Effingham County for that reason. However, that is changing. Our economic growth, industrial growth, and hopefully commercial growth that we're going to continue to see is going to change that picture a little bit. but I expect that we'll continue to see growth that'll be somewhat challenging to manage from time to time. It has been to this point, and it's going to continue to change, be that way, but it's going to change a little bit in the way that it looks. So I think we just need to be very attuned to those changes and the changes that we'll need to make to accommodate that. And as we grow, particularly the south end of the county is filling up. And, you know, there's still a lot of land in North Effingham, and people are just going to keep moving north. We're going to continue to grow. We've got a lot of areas to grow. That may impact the agricultural picture of our county. So we've just got to manage, I think, the residential density, and we've got to manage the economic growth, particularly the industrial growth in the county, to hopefully maintain the sense of place that we like to talk about here in Effingham County.
So it's a large question, and I would say Springfield, where we are geographically, are on the edge of being an edge community because we are the buffer in between north and south. I think one of the problems we have is, as governments, we kind of get isolated in our offices and we're not out talking to people, talking to landowners, talking to these large tract landowners to see what their plan is for that property for the future, to have a discussion with them that there are conservation easements, there are things they can do to protect that property in perpetuity so that it will not be developed. And I think once we get out of our boxes and actually have those conversations, we can determine where does the growth need to be, and then how do we mitigate that growth so that it's not a burden to the agricultural community. Because I believe that agriculture is something we need to protect and something that needs to be a priority long term. Obviously housing is going to come, residential development is going to come. We need to be very, very smart as to where it goes geographically, because that's going to have a place of burden on the rest of us for the next 30 to 40 years.
I agree completely. The biggest opportunity we've got being an edge community is also the biggest challenge. It's growth. We've said it over and over again. And we're preaching to a room of leaders. We're preaching to a room of the business and the government leaders and community leaders. And so y'all aren't necessarily the ones that need to hear this the most, but we all have that friend or family member, that person who's involved, and you say, hey, come to this meeting. Hey, come join us for this planning session. And they go, I don't want to be involved. I don't want to come to Sunday school. So I think our biggest task as this group of people is to get everyone to show up, to get out of our little offices and our boxes and demand, because if not, the only people coming to those meetings besides the leadership are the armchair engineers and the social media warriors. And so true leadership in Effingham County, I said the same thing to leadership Effingham the other day, the true leadership needs to show up and bring a friend. And so if we can make this master plan for what we're going to do with Effingham County over the next 30 years as a county, and not just the government and the few people complaining, then we'll have success. We cannot be successful alone.
From a healthcare perspective, certainly it helps on the provider recruitment standpoint to be closer and be a larger growing county, so to get those physicians out to come work in our county and stay in our county, the ones that are coming from Effingham. But the opportunity would be that we want to make sure that we have enough resources and provide that non-emergent care to this end of the county that is the less populated area. And so doing things like our community paramedicine program, being able to go out to those communities, be able and outreach to them and say, what are your needs? What can we do to help you and get the care that you need quickly?
I really don't have anything to add. It's been well covered. Thank you.
What I would add from a school district perspective is that agriculture is and still remains and will remain a very integral part of our school district. We own a 360-acre farm, Honey Ridge Agri Center, and it is a great resource for our students. Even as families move into subdivisions, they still have a desire to be a part of agriculture, and I know agriculture is a leading industry in Georgia. So that will continue to be very important to our school district. As we've grown, one of the things that we've always prided ourselves on is mirroring the programs we offer for students in regards to CTAE. mirrors what the industry needs, and we've worked very closely with Gulfstream and the Georgia Ports Authority and many other industries, Georgia Pacific. As new industry comes into our school district and into our county, it's going to be very important that we continue to partner with them and make sure that the programs we're offering within our school district mirrors the needs that our local businesses need.
Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen. For the next questions, we'll break going back and forth, and if it's something you're passionate about, just speak up, and we'll make sure we get through them all. So the next kind of touches on a bit of what we've heard, either been an edge community or veteran community, no matter what you want to call it. The most current census shows that over 80% of our employed residents of Effingham actually leave the county for employment. This is up 2.5% from 2010 and 6.5% from 2002. You know, I'd just like to have a conversation of what might we do to reverse that trend. I think, you know, we've heard a lot about a lot of transportation-related things that are outside of our county boundaries that we don't have direct control over. This is one that maybe we do have some direct control over.
I would say encourage them to be a teacher. You can keep them here.
Or a nurse,
Or a police officer. I don't see us changing this trend as much, because as the county grows, we're going to have more and more. We're right on the edge of Savannah. That's going to be the major supplier of jobs. But at the same time, I think it falls to transportation and the major improvements we've been doing to keep that going safely, as well as provide opportunities to, if there's something we can do to facilitate and encourage work from home and that movement that occurred during COVID, I see it being a big opportunity. I know I've got personal friends who have made choices to live in this community because they no longer, it doesn't matter if they live in Atlanta. So there's an opportunity for that, and that goes back to broadband access and things of that nature.
Yeah, I don't know that we have as much control over that as you might imply in that question. People want to live in Effingham, but the question is, how do we have the employment so that, like my kids who have all left, gone to the Atlanta area or some other larger city for opportunity, how do we create those jobs? And I don't know that we have that much control over that, except I'm going to put our IDA on the spot a little bit here. I think they've done a wonderful job in getting folks into our industrial areas, and some things are out there that are exciting. But at the same time, I think we have to look at maybe restricting some of the pilots in the future, because businesses or industry wants to be here. I think we need to be careful about increasing the warehousing industry, because that's not going to keep our kids here and keep the traffic from flowing into Savannah. I think we've got to look for more manufacturing, the kind of manufacturing that we could enjoy in 6,000 acres. I would, maybe Brand can address that. I would encourage that we look at a portion of that for manufacturing that brings the higher paying jobs. So, you know, you saw the joint authority that I'm a member of, and we had this land that the governor's provided. They were always seeking some major industry to come in there. When that does happen one day, there will be some satellite manufacturing companies. We need to make sure we leave some industrial land available for those satellite assemblers and manufacturers that creates the management and good jobs. That's the only thing that's probably going to create that. The other thing the county is looking at is, you know, land use, establishing another commercial district. Now, I don't know where that's at, so don't get excited. It may not be in your yard, but we know that Rincon is about to max out, and it's good to hear what they're doing with their boxes that have, you know, businesses have closed. But we need another commercial area. Springfield's doing a great job of coming down that corridor. I've got people calling me and complaining that we're going to become a garden city. I'm confident that this management, if you look what they've done, and the mayor, what they have done in the downtown area, they'll do a good quality job of the 21 corridor. I'm confident of that. And we have to look for additional commercial opportunities for our kids to open businesses, because then we have the population to support those businesses. So we need some commercial corridors for that transportation. That in manufacturing will hopefully never change it completely, but slow it down and maybe reverse it a little bit, okay?
If you look at our 30,000 people workforce, half of them leave to go mostly to Chatham County every day, about 15,000 leave. Now, of course, a lot of them work at Gulfstream, JCB, Mitsubishi. Those people would always continue to go to those jobs there. So you can't capture them all. But what we're trying to do is capture some of the workforce and keep them here, especially if they're in the warehouse distribution arena. So yes, there is a lot of warehousing that's coming. But what we're doing, and kind of piggybacking on what Chairman Corman said, we have the Grandview Industrial Park, and the county was kind enough to sell us that park. And what we plan on doing is manufacturing there. We're not going to do warehouse distribution. That's 450 acres, so there's going to be a good opportunity there. And again, but when it comes to manufacturing, of course, manufacturing requires water and sewer. And so as the county's doing a great job with their master planning of water and sewer, but the proximity to the port, it drives a lot of the industrial land to distribution. So I agree, we do need to have that balance. We also have I showed earlier, we have kind of quickly, we have a park down on I-16. We have a large site down there. We're holding that site for a manufacturer. Again, limitations on water and sewer, but we're trying to solve that dilemma also. So if it's a park that we control, that the development authority controls, moving forward, it'll be held for manufacturing. And we'll let our private developers who have purchased property and got it rezoned, they'll make that decision as to what they want to do with the property, but we also strongly encourage private developers to look at manufacturing, and we bring them those opportunities too. So we're not just limiting manufacturing to just our parks, but the parks that we do control will be manufacturing moving forward.
Excellent. Well, kind of staying on that topic, in May of 2021, I believe it was May, Governor Kemp announced the authorization to purchase the property that Brant showed on the screen there. You know, that's located just outside of our county boundaries in Bryan County in the southeast corner of Highway 280 and Interstate 16. This is a kind of a two-part question. You know, obviously, what opportunities and challenges are each of your organizations looking at related to that, to the thousands of jobs potential that site will bring? And then also knowing the success that regional partnership outside of our county boundaries, that joint development authority, Savannah Harbor Interstate 16 Corridor Joint Development Authority, I think I got that right there. How might we leverage that for other things within our region to partner with other regional partners? Open.
Yeah, so no secret, Governor Kemp put in $40 million to help buy the property in Bryan County. And again, going back to my comment about county lines, when companies come and look, they're not looking at these county lines. They're looking at the location of the site, they're looking at proximity to the port, they're looking at proximity to Atlanta and all those different factors. And so, you know, going back to communication, we have a good relationship with the other development authorities, which has allowed this JDA to flourish. It's allowed us to work together. And so, you know, one of the biggest problems we've always had with the site is we never controlled the site, so companies never took us serious. But when the governor stepped up and bought the property, it was a game changer for us. There's no secret. I mean, coming out of COVID, there's a lot of activity in the market. But it's really a partnership not only with the JDA, but also here in Effingham County, because my chairman, Troy Smith, is a board member, Chairman Corman is a board member, and Tim's been very involved. So collectively, as Effingham County, we have to be on the same page as what this means to us, what it brings to us. Even though the property is located in Bryan County, whatever happens on that site will be a major employment center. High-paying jobs is one of the mandates. Again, it will not be, obviously, warehouse distribution. It's going to be manufacturing. The wages could be anywhere from $55,000 to $80,000 starting off. It's an opportunity, as the chairman said, for people to move back to this community and live on the coast as opposed to moving somewhere else. I mean, it really has the opportunity and capability to be a major game changer for the coastal region. And with that, yes, there'll be transportation challenges and things like that. But as Ms. Ann said, all that's being looked at, all this is being planned. This is not something, it's a knee-jerk reaction that we're just now having encounters. So there's been a lot of planning going on. And so it's going to have a major impact on Effingham County, and it's going to have a major impact, in my opinion, on the school. But I know Dr. Ford is very much involved in this. He's planning for this. So I think it's an exciting time. I think it's an exciting time for both Effingham County and not only the 4 counties in the JDA, but really the 8 or 9 counties are going to have a major impact on whatever happens out there on that site.
Yeah, just add one note to that. I've been on that JDA board for about 6 years now, and it's really a great cooperative effort. And I think for our county, it is a real opportunity. None of us want the big smokestacks in our county. It's nice to have the smokestacks possibly in another county, but if we can get those supporting assembly and manufacturing jobs and industry in our areas like Grandview, that's the kind of quality industry I think we can appreciate. And then our participation on the board is that, you know, with this will come some tax benefits to the local county where it's located. But as a board member and as a JDA, we owning that, working with the other like Bullock County and surrounding counties that are in that and the IDAs, hopefully we can coordinate some resources from that industry as they begin to pay payments in lieu of taxes back to our county to help with our infrastructure, because we know people working there are going to want to live where? In the best little place in America to live, Effingham. So we are on that board where we can negotiate for dollars to come back into our community to help us support our infrastructure, water, sewer, and transportation. So those are 2 things that we're looking at: the ancillary industries and some reward for participation in that board. I might say the JDA board is being looked at, I believe, around the state of Georgia as one of the innovative ideas of counties working together to bring good industry into our area. It's not very many of those around, maybe 1 or 2, but we're one of them.
Excellent. Thank you. And in the effort of time, I will keep this. This will be the last question for the morning, and it's related to feedback there. Related to a lot of what we've heard already. You know, related to traffic. You know, we're proud that the citizens of Effingham approved G-SPOS. The chamber is very proud in the effort that we took to help promote that. Related to transportation, and this is probably more so for the counties and the municipalities, what beyond just capacity on the streets are your communities looking at? Mayor Lee referenced sidewalks, but more of a complete street program to where we're not so reliant on jumping in a car between here and there. So just if you could elaborate a bit on that, if you've got any plans or things that y'all are looking for.
We've always loved our trail. Everyone compliments us on the trail, and the county and Guyton both sponsored or promoted a high-low trail, which is a trail running from Athens to Savannah. As part of the next round of T-Splost, I know T-Splost is great for Effingham parkways and big, giant development, but at the same time, we need to encourage the things that make it great to live here in town and live in our community. So I'll be encouraging a series of bikes, walking, and cart paths, kind of in the nature of our trail, what we have now, but connecting the municipalities, connecting the county, and allowing for an alternative means for those who do stay in the county instead of having to get in a car and drive to work a mile away. Make that an opportunity, make that easy without being on a state highway, without having to walk or even a sidewalk. So encouraging that in the next round of T-Splost is something we'd like to see.
So one of the things I mentioned earlier was an overlay district. We have adopted one that encapsulates 500 feet on either side of Highway 21. What we hope that will do is encourage commercial properties to build closer to the front line of their property, moving parking to the rear. The rear of that property will then be accessed via an arterial street, which is on the back side of that property. So we hopefully can encourage a second row of commercial property in and out. One of the things we've added to that street design is that we are a golf cart friendly community. We want those streets to have golf cart access, bicycle access, sidewalk access. So when a developer comes in and they want to develop along Highway 21, that is one of the first questions they're going to be asked is, how are you going to accommodate for these alternative means of travel? And hopefully that, to go back to Wesley's comment earlier, I've never understood the method of planning that went through some cities where you have to exit on the Highway 21, you go 0.2 of a mile, you make a right or left back into another business. It makes no sense to me. And so that's the path we've gone down, thanks to Ryan's education, that we've been able to plan these things hopefully a little better in the future. And we We actually have one of the first ones that's coming up is going to go through a Right Start meeting. So we're working through that process to hopefully we have alternative means, at least within the city. We need to develop some ways to interconnect some of our cities together, so with alternative means. But that's one path we're going down.
And Rick and I referenced the sidewalks and the importance that is to us. You know, our density and population is maybe a little different than Springfield and Guyton, but our commercial district is pretty compact, and our neighborhoods are compact. So we're looking for connectivity. We're looking for the ability to be able to walk or bike to where you want to go, whether it be to visit your neighbors in the next neighborhood or the local business that you go to, or your church or whatever. So, you know, we're looking to really become a walking community and to make it convenient for people to do that. They need that. We need that for a lot of reasons, but connectivity is the piece that we're looking for, the ability to walk our city.
Connectivity is really a challenge for the county. Being one of the largest land masses of all the 159 counties, probably the state of Georgia, it's pretty broad. We do have a sidewalk ordinance where new subdivisions have to create sidewalks. We need to create safety and connectivity within that local community. We're also doing some master planning, trying to see how we can connect our parks, and connect different parts of different communities together through pathways. Things of this nature, bike trails. We're looking at broadening our shoulders. I've got a lot of friends who ride the bikes and they say our little 12, 18-inch shoulder's not enough, so we're looking at maybe increasing that so it's a little safer for bikes. We have established truck routes to keep trucks off of our residential streets, which I think has been helpful in moving people around the county more safely as well. But our biggest focus obviously is the infrastructure of streets, getting our ash roads paved, these T-spots that you've given us, improving Goshen Road with roundabouts, widening it, improving Hodgeville, widening portions of that with XL, DCL, roundabouts that keep the traffic moving. That's got to be our focus for the next 5 years to handle the growth, but we are planning for the bike routes and the connectivity between our communities.
Right, and I'd follow up with, we transport a little over 7,000 students by bus in the mornings and a little over 8,000 in the afternoons. We're almost 14,000 students, so over half of those are being transported by bus. Therefore, that's a lot of precious cargo that we're hauling to school and back home. So as we continue to grow, infrastructure in regards to roads is very important to us. We want to make sure that, you know, our roads are safe. This group would be amazed at if I was to show you some of the statistics from we have an 8-camera view system on some of our buses that are in high traffic areas. The number of roadway residents that run bus stops signs, and I'm talking about at a level that is very dangerous. So we continue to want to make sure we stay at the forefront of providing safe roads for our school buses, so that our parents know that their kids are getting transported safely to and from school.
Excellent. Well, I want to ask Andy Cripps, our Chamber CEO, to come close us out, but I just want to personally, I want to thank you all for doing this, spending a little bit more time than you originally committed. We really appreciate it. I want to thank all of our members for staying. The room's still relatively full compared to what I was expecting to look out and see, so I really appreciate it. And just one final thing to clarify, to Matt's point, my education is part of the solution. It didn't create a problem. I just wanted to clarify that. So, all right, very much, and welcome Andy Cripps.
Well, I want to say how honored and grateful we are to all of you. I mean, these are people with tremendous responsibility and demands on their time, and we're grateful that you felt this was important enough, you know, to give the time today. So let's have a round of applause for all of our speakers. And I'm grateful that, you know, you consider this dialogue important because, you know, the growth of this county is, it's coming, and without the collaboration that's happening here and the dialogue with our community, we can perhaps have the future that we want rather than the future that will be imposed on us. So we're grateful for you making the time today. I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to shout out to our sponsors, Oglethorpe Power and the Industrial Development Authority. A couple people here didn't get mentioned. They're Stacey Austin from U.S. Representative Rick Allen's office is here, and also Matthew Worth from U.S. Representative Buddy Carter's office is here. So we appreciate your interest in Effingham County as well. I want to thank the city of Guyton, Mayor Dean, and Makita Brown, the city manager. Their welcome was tremendous, and we're pleased that we could do an event here. I want to thank Tamala Mydell and Southern Cafe on 17. And not just tremendous food, she takes great pride in this community, and so she put the centerpieces, the beautiful pictures out here on the table. You can see how much she cares about the city of Guyton and Effingham County, so thank you, Tamala.
I see Georgia Pacific back there talking about keeping jobs inside our county. Thanks to Georgia Pacific and their wonderful partnership with our community, there's about 3,000 of our kids who don't, or friends who don't go to Savannah every day, but they work here. So we appreciate Georgia Pacific being a good friend of this community.
All right, with that said, we want to thank you for being here.